Hi, Eagles sports fans. This is Joe coming to you at New Mexico Chat. Remember to hit like and subscribe. So big week coming up. Lots of news this week, even though it's our bye week. But we're coming off the big win over the Giants. Revenge. It looked like the Eagles were men with a mission. The offense played well. Defense had some moments, but played pretty well. Um, But I'm still wondering about the offense. Has the last 2 weeks been an anomaly? Looks like we found the running game. But, Barkley explodes. Is it something we're going to be able to stay with? I've watched a lot of film. It looks like a lot of times when some of the more successful running plays, the Eagles were in a unbalanced line. They had brought in Johnson as a extra tackle and parked him outside of Lane Johnson. Um, so I have some high hopes for the running game. It does look like Patullo got a little more creative. Maybe he and Hertz sat down and came up with some things. I do like Hertz under center. It made the play action pass game go pretty well. Toth played really well and in there for Jerkins. One of the things that I did see was they said the last week against the Vikings where he struggled somewhat. He's not a natural center. He is more of a guard, but he was also one on one a lot last week. So this week, the Eagles made it a point to give him help, put him out on double teams, gave him some free range to run, and that allowed some of those runs to break through. If you look at Barkley's first run, um, Toth and Landon Dickerson were lined up pretty strong on the middle linebacker. Of course, Malata took his man. Devonta Smith took out his man. Totally opened up that backside for Barkley to cut back, even though he had his pick of holes. The other thing that was great to see with the running game was for weeks, they were averaging around 1 yard, 2 yards per carry before Barkley was getting hit. Now, for this game, it was five. So there's a lot of optimism there. Um, there's a lot of optimism going into the bye week. Maybe we'll continue to work on things, but I know some of the players got some time off. Cooper DeJean was in Iowa today, um, or at least he said he was in Iowa while he was being interviewed by Mike Florio on Florio Show, PFT this morning. So you know that's where that's at. Passing game looked pretty well. Dotson had to go up for one. Um, but as we've seen in past weeks, he has mossed a couple people for some catches. So I think he's coming along at that third receiver spot. Devonta Smith ran wild with AJ Brown not playing. Um, that's still a point of concern with me. Does his hamstring really hurt? Is he really having a hamstring problem? Or is this a result of his tweets from the past few weeks? That remains to be seen. Let's hope everybody can kiss and make up over the break. Um, it was nice to see Goddard get involved, 2 touchdowns, especially on tight end day. Um, but it looked like he and Hertz were on the same page. There was some direct calls to him. So hopefully Patullo is going to get the tight end a little more involved. Defensively, I would still like to see. I know the pass rush had 5 sacks. They could have easily had 6 or 7 if Jackson Dart was not a mobile quarterback. Um, BG is possibly going to play, the week after the bye. I think that's going to add to the Eagles' pass rush. But I think the biggest thing he brings to this team is maturity and leadership, and that is what that defense has been lacking. With Nakobe Dean back again, more leadership on defense. They were better at stopping the run with Nakobe Dean on the field than they had been, which is a plus side. Jahad Campbell still learning that outside edge piece. I'm not super concerned about him. People said he kind of had a down game. He did have some reduced snaps because Nakobe Dean was back, but I really look for those to pick up as well. I don't think that that's going to be something that is, an anomaly. I've read some reports where people are like, oh, the Eagles showed lack of confidence in him. No, Fangio has talked about the fact that there is so much for him to learn. especially at that edge position, especially playing, linebacker in the NFL. That I think this is now that Jacoby's back is a way to bring him along more slowly. Secondary still brings me some concerns. Look like a couple blown coverages. Kenyon got beat on one, but hey, nobody's going to be perfect in the NFL. And that brings me to the signing of Michael Carter II. I agree with Acho's report. He was on with John Clark on NBC Philly, talking about how he thinks it's a low risk, high reward. Um, because Carter did have a great year when he was a rookie, but that was also 4 or 5 years ago. Now he's been hit with the injury bug. He's coming off of a concussion. So hopefully the Eagles will have him back on the field soon. I don't think like if they were playing this week, he would be playing. That's why I said it that way. However, I think with Michael Carter, it's going to take some time. He's going to have to learn Fangio's defense. So coming in during a bye is kind of ideal time. Um, I've seen some talk out there about the Eagles going after Garrett or Hendrickson. I don't see that happening. Um, would those guys really help the defense? Sure, they would help anybody's defense. However, I really think that um, they would, the cost is too much. And Howie's not going to throw out a first round pick or multiple first round picks for those guys, not at their age, not with their salaries. It's just not something he's going to do. If he wanted to pay that kind of salary, he would have kept Sweaty around last year. He would have kept Williams around. So those kinds of things I don't see the Eagles doing. Bye week would be a great time to do it, but the trade deadline's coming up in a couple weeks, and I could see it happening there. Um, just to kind of preview a little bit of the Packers game, then we'll do a full video next week. This is going to be the Eagles always struggle a little bit in Green Bay, so I don't suspect that they'll come out and like be ready to wipe off the field. Um, wipe Green Bay off the field. Oh, even though Green Bay seems to struggle against some of the better teams, they did beat Detroit this week, but that was the first week of the season. I don't think they could beat Detroit now. That's just where I'm at with that. Um, those of us who have been around for a while, we have some really bad flashbacks of the Eagles being in Green Bay. That's where Randall Cunningham got hurt and sent the whole 93 season down the toilet. Um, However, I don't see, hopefully if Hurts won't get hurt up there, we come out of that clean, few injuries up there. It's going to be cold. It's going to be chilly. I lived in Milwaukee at one time. Starts getting cold there in November, so it's going to be pretty cold. Um, Probably for that game in 2 weeks. So let's enjoy the bye, enjoy this time off, enjoy the Eagles changes. We'll have to see what's coming down the pike with Howie. Um, oh, I do want to talk about how the Eagles, before I close out this video, how the Eagles fans reacted to the Scatterboo injury. I thought he was amazing in college. The way he took over that playoff game against Texas, Arizona State could have very easily won that game. Um, However, I have broken an ankle in my past. To see him with a broken ankle, just was pretty devastating. It really was. Um, I really wanted to see him have a really great career. I wanted to see what kind of year he was going to have as a rookie. He was playing so well. But it was pretty classy of the Eagles fans to give him a standing ovation. Um, and that's great. That was really, really great to see, um, especially for a division rival, especially a rival that's hated as much as the Giants are. That rivalry goes back the whole history of the NFL, pretty much, with the Eagles playing the Giants since the 1930s and 40s. So, it was classy to see, and I'm glad to see that, the Eagles fans expressed that. So let's have, a big cheer for the Eagles fans, cheer for the birds, fly, Eagles, fly, and let's enjoy our week off and hope the team gets healthy.